In the quiet hum of a bustling city bank, where polished marble floors reflected the hurried steps of suited professionals, a young girl named Zara stepped through the grand doors. She was no more than 12, her dark curls tied back simply, her clothes worn and patched from years of hand-me-downs. A faded backpack hung from her thin shoulders, carrying the weight of her few belongings. Zara's skin glowed with the rich warmth of her heritage, but her eyes held a quiet determination that spoke of trials far beyond her years. The bank teller, Mr. Ellis, a sharp-dressed man in his 50s with a confident smile and a watch that gleamed under the lights, glanced up from his computer. He was the kind of man who had climbed the ranks through charm and quick judgments, always ready with a quip to lighten the day for his colleagues. Behind him, a group of employees lingered, chatting about weekend plans, their laughter echoing softly in the spacious lobby. Zara approached the counter, her voice steady but soft. "Excuse me, sir. Can I see my account, please?" Mr. Ellis looked her over, his eyebrow arching slightly. The girl before him seemed out of place amid the crisp suits and shiny nameplates. Her shoes were scuffed, her jacket too big, as if borrowed from an older sibling. He leaned back in his chair, a chuckle escaping his lips. "Your account? Let me guess, $1, right?" The words hung in the air, drawing snickers from the staff behind him. One woman clapped her hands lightly, another man nodded with a grin, their amusement rippling like a gentle wave. It was not meant to be cruel, perhaps, but in that moment, it stung like an old wound reopening. Zara stood there, unflinching, her small hands gripping the counter's edge. In those days, you see, life moved a bit slower, much like the world we knew in our 50s and 60s, when a simple trip to the bank could feel like stepping into a storybook of possibilities and pitfalls. Banks were places of dreams deferred and fortunes found, where a single ledger entry could change everything. Zara remembered her grandmother's tales from back then, stories of folks who rose from nothing, their voices strong and unyielding, echoing the spirit of communities that built empires from scraps. "Never let them silence you, child," her grandmother would say, her words warm like a quilt on a chilly evening. "Your voice is your power, and one day, it'll ring louder than any bell." Mr. Ellis, still smiling, typed a few keys, humoring what he assumed was a child's whim. The screen flickered to life, pulling up the details linked to the faded ID card Zara had slid across the counter. It was an old account, dormant for years, tied to a name that made his eyes widen just a fraction. He paused, his finger hovering over the enter key. The lobby grew quieter now, the staff's laughter fading as they sensed something shifting. Zara watched him, her heart beating steadily. She thought of her father, a brilliant inventor who had passed away too soon, leaving behind patents that revolutionized quiet corners of the world, devices that purified water in forgotten villages, tools that brought light to homes without power. He was a man whose voice had been overlooked in boardrooms, but whose legacy burned bright. The money in that account was no accident, it was the fruit of his labor, placed in trust for her, hidden until she came of age or necessity called. As the balance loaded, Mr. Ellis's face changed. The number stared back at him, $50 million. His mouth opened slightly, the mockery vanishing like mist in the morning sun. The staff leaned in, their applause turning to murmurs of surprise. "50 million, one whispered. Mr. Ellis cleared his throat, his voice now gentle, almost reverent. "Miss Zara, this is yours." She nodded, her eyes meeting his. "Yes, sir. My father's work. He always said, wealth isn't in the wallet, it's in the wisdom we pass on." In that instant, the bank felt smaller, more human. Mr. Ellis stood, extending a hand. "I apologize, young lady. I misjudged you." The staff, now silent, offered nods of respect. Zara smiled faintly, forgiving without words, for she knew life's lessons often came wrapped in unexpected packages. As she left the bank that day, account details in hand, Zara felt the weight lift from her shoulders. She would use the money wisely, to build schools in her community, to amplify voices like her father's, voices that had been hushed but never silenced. It reminded her of those nostalgic evenings listening to radio stories in the 60s, where heroes emerged from the shadows, teaching us that true richness lies in kindness and connection. Years later, Zara grew into a woman who founded centers for young inventors, places where Black voices rang out strong and clear. She often shared her story with elders in their 50s and 60s, gathering around community tables, sipping tea, reminiscing about times when a single act of humility could bridge divides. "Life has a way of surprising us," she'd say, her tone calm and reassuring. "But remember, the greatest fortune is the wisdom to see beyond appearances." And so, in the quiet rhythm of days gone by, we learn that mockery can turn to marvel, and a child's quiet request can echo the profound truths of human connection. It's a gentle reminder, dear listener, that acceptance blooms where judgment fades, and every voice deserves its moment in the light. If you enjoyed this tale from the Black Voices, please like, share, and subscribe for more stories that warm the heart. And in the comments, tell us, Iski complete Banadu, what would you add to make this story even richer?